Well, welcome back to my old house in Preston. You're looking at the attic, and things are pretty cleaned out here in preparation for the removal of the floorboards so that I can then put in the 2x8, or rather 2x10s that I'm going to use to beef up the floor and to provide a sufficient cavity for blown-in cellulose insulation. The attic looks pretty good here, and of course when the floor gets built up with the addition of the 2x10s, then the replacement of the boards, it'll look just as good. So anyway, you can see that's fairly spacious when it's not cluttered, and of course all of these holes in the floor will be taken care of when the boards are replaced. So I have completed the upgrade of the joists in the front section of the house, and as you can see here, I have 2x10s running across this 20-foot span between the tops of the wall plates, and I've obviously used this space now to put the old boards just loosely in place, and it's not a problem walking on them as long as you pay attention to what you're doing. So I'm going to try to do that while holding the camera at the same time, and again, as they say, try to avoid death. So these joists are really not joists for the second floor ceiling nor for the attic floor. These are rafter ties. Their spacing is every 24 inches on center to coincide with the rafter structure of the roof. And I'm going to get on the other side here so you can see what I have done. And while the original rafter ties are notched onto the top plate of the walls, these 2x10s sit fully on top of the wall plates, and the reason for that is I needed to get more height in the cavity in order to use a sufficient amount of blow-in cellulose insulation in order to provide me with an R40 insulation value. So there you can see, I think I've got a zoom feature on this that I may be able to avail myself of. I hope I don't mess things up. Maybe not. I'm going to deflect here, and in any event, down there you can see the end of the 2x10 sitting fully on top of the plate, and along here you can see the old rafter tie, and you can see how much higher the new 2x10 sits above the old rafter. It's about 4.5 inches or thereabouts. So all in all, it gives me close to 12 inches of space between what will be the ceiling below on the second floor and the floor here of the attic. So that's a good thing. And also, effectively, even though it's a 2x10 resting on the plates, it's nailed thoroughly to the old rafter tie, and the old rafter tie hangs down below the 2x. As you can see, a little bit below there, you see the brown of the old lumber just below, and from this angle it doesn't look like much, but it's about 2 inches. So I have effectively a 2x12, which is plenty to give me sufficient floor support for live and dead loads. This particular section of the house is 20 feet from wall plate to wall plate, and there's a load-bearing wall just under this pile of old floorboards. I'm going to walk out again and get over here. And it's a load-bearing wall in the sense for the floor, and you can see it down there. So because this is a 20-foot span in this section of the house, I actually did this in two pieces. So I have 8-foot 2x10s from that side to on top of the load-bearing wall, and then I have 14-foot 2x10s from that side to the load-bearing wall. That's because the load-bearing wall is not quite centered 8 and 12. It's a little less than 8 and a little more than 12, so I had to go to the next size up on the longer 2x10s. So again, that's a load-bearing wall, not from the sense that it's supporting the roof load or an end wall load, but it's just supporting the floor, which is fine, and it made it a little bit easier to maneuver the 2x10s into place. So once I get the modifications to the rafter ties done in this section, I will put the floorboards loose like I have there, and then I'll be able to move back into the front section and install the floorboards, and they'll just be face nailed. I will avail myself of the tongues and the grooves because that helps to make the floor a little more rigid. These are just 3/4 of an inch thick, these boards, so if a 200-pounder were to walk on any one of them between the 24-inch joists, you'd get a little flex in the floor, but the tongue and groove setup helps to stiffen that up and make it a very solid floor. If I run out of these floorboards, I will get a piece of something like this, the Advantech at 3/4 of an inch thick, and use it to fill in any gaps. But as I say, soon I'll be working on this section. Again, first order of business, rip up the floorboards and pile them over here, and then bring in the 2x10s, of which I think I need 16, and I'll bring them up the stairs, which are down there, and then I will slide them through the holes in the floor here and angle them up and around the chimney so that I can get them up to this level, and I will probably pile them up right there so that I'll have space and they won't be in the way. So that's the plan. How long did it take me to do this front section? I'd say collectively, maybe 3 days. And of course, I couldn't do a full day in here because it's summertime. Today is the 3rd of July, excuse me. And it gets hot in here. So how hot does it get? Well, I checked with my infrared or laser thermometer, and what I got here when I was working here on Friday, a few days ago, I was 111 and 112 degrees while I was working here. So it was bloody hot, and so progress was a little slow as I had to, work a little, and then I had to go downstairs and drink lots of water and splash water on my head and take a rest, because that kind of heat takes it out of you. And even though the humidity is not super high, it's still high, relatively speaking, so it does tend to wear you out. Even though I've got a window here that I opened, didn't make much difference as far as the temperature goes. So I will have help, though. My neighbor has generously offered to give me an assist, so that'll be great, because a 16-foot long 2x10, is, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 pounds. So, and bringing them off the truck, up the stairs from the ground floor, and then sliding them up through these holes is going to be a chore in and of itself. And of course, we'll probably only be able to work half a day, just because it'll get just too hot up here to continue to working the entire day. It's a typical summer day here in Preston, Maryland, wherein the sun is up, and the sun will heat up this space during the day, and then we'll most likely have some afternoon thunderstorms, which will dump a little bit of rain for a few minutes, and then it'll go away. So not a front, it's just a heat buildup in the atmosphere. A front would indicate that we'd have cooler weather behind it, but that's not going to be the case for the next couple of weeks. So sunny mornings, hot and humid, and as I say, I'm in the attic, and hope to get to this sometime this month in the not too distant future. All right, we'll see you later.